What's happening, guys? I'm SJ from 10 Points of Slashing, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the achievement that I am more ashamed of than any other achievement I have ever gotten. I feel like it's important to start off by saying that I compulsively chase achievements / trophies. I spend a lot of time in the games that I love just running around doing completely pointless stuff just so I can see the little thing pop up on screen and tell me I'm doing a great job. And that mindless compulsion is what ultimately led me to the cascade of shame that I've been feeling. So let's pick that apart and jump right into it. I recently sent a text to my brother that said, and I quote, "I did unspeakable things for this trophy." I was of course referring to Mind Blown, the one you get for romancing the Emperor, a major Mind Flayer character in Baldur's Gate 3. Let me be clear, I saved just before the conversation, got the trophy, and then reloaded the save so that I didn't have to subject that character to living in abject indignity for the remainder of the playthrough. And that feeling of shame and horror sank ever deeper into me. I thought to myself, this is it, the bottom of the barrel. There's no way I'll ever do anything in my life as shameful as what I did to get this achievement. Then I heard a little voice in my head, and it said,
"Someone else might have gotten it wrong."
Let's talk Mass Effect and my biggest video gaming regret, ladies and gentlemen. I want to make this abundantly clear. I am absolutely a little freak for pretty much anything BioWare does. So a few years ago, when I set out to get the Platinum Trophy / All Achievements achievement in the Legendary Edition, I knew that I had to get the perfect ending in Mass Effect 3. I had individually gotten the Platinums in each game prior to the release of Legendary Edition, so I pretty much knew what I was up against right from the bat. But I wanted to really immerse myself in the world again, so I committed to at least 2 playthroughs per game. One to get as many of the random achievements that I could, and one in each game dedicated to the 100% story completion run. Obviously, I far exceeded the 2 playthroughs rule because I can't get enough of this crap. And I guess I need to get this off my chest sooner rather than later. I killed Wrex. And I didn't stop there, I killed Mordin too. Now, before you publicly shame me, let me explain. For whatever reason, the reading and research that I did led me to believe that I had to kill both of these characters in order to get the 100% ending. However, I didn't find this out until after I committed these atrocities, but apparently the developers built it into the Legendary Edition of Mass Effect 3 that you can still get the achievement even without importing a save from Mass Effect 1 and 2. And I also pretty recently learned that you can actually convince Mordin to sabotage the cure and he survives the mission. That is the option that I took in my most recent Insanity playthrough, and in hindsight, I would much rather have done that instead of ruthlessly murdering 2 of the most incredible, complex, and emotionally compelling characters I've ever seen in a video game. And the worst part about all of that is, I found out just after that recent Insanity run that none of that matters anyway. Allowing Mordin to cure the genophage and keeping Wrex alive actually nets you the most war assets out of the whole debacle. More so than if you manipulate your way to having both Krogan and Solarian forces. I'm pretty sure that's how I got the achievement in the original release of Mass Effect 3, and I guess I just didn't remember that. I killed them for absolutely nothing. Looking back at my horrible misdeeds, I feel compelled to write a little love letter of sorts to these 2 characters in honor of them, and try to find some way to atone for what I've done. Let's start by taking a look at the moments that led me to murdering them. We'll start with the more heartbreaking of the 2, Dr. Mordin Solus. I maintain that this is one of the greatest moments in video gaming, period. Right down to the nitty-gritties of it. The way this scene is shot, the art direction, the voice acting, every single piece of this scene lends itself to the overwhelming emotion behind it, let alone the meaning behind the scene itself. The story that had to be told to reach this moment. A story that started in the first game. Let's talk about this a little bit. The genophage. A bioengineered superweapon that essentially sterilized the Krogan's entire race. It was conceptualized and developed by the Solarians and deployed by the Turians. This extremely drastic tactic was a last resort as a result of the Krogan rebellions, which, to summarize, the Krogan were instrumental in fighting off an invading race called the Rachni. Due to their contributions to the war effort, the Krogan were rewarded by the Citadel Council with all of the Rachni worlds that were conquered during the war, in addition to several other worlds in Citadel space. The Krogan homeworld, Tuchanka, is one of the harshest planets in the known galaxy, and as such, Krogan biology evolved to the point that when they reproduce, thousands of eggs can be laid in a very short time span. This ensures survivability of the species, as a large portion of those eggs are essentially doomed to death given the unforgiving climate of Tuchanka. After the Council's gift of more planets, the Krogan started expanding throughout the galaxy at an alarming rate, because a majority of their young weren't dying off in brutal planetary conditions anymore. As the Krogan population grew exponentially, the Krogan started pushing deeper and deeper into Citadel space until eventually there was a massive decades-long conflict called the Krogan Rebellions. To make a long story short, the Council eventually deployed the genophage, stopped the rebellions, and the Krogan have been extremely bitter towards all Council races ever since, with a particular burning hatred for Salarians and Turians. Over 1,000 years of Krogan sterility pass, and the Salarians realize that the Krogan have started building a natural immunity to the genophage. Their biology has started evolving to the point that the genophage would essentially be written out of their genetics before too long. Enter Mordin Solus, a Salarian doctor and geneticist whose task was to find a way to make the genophage effective again. He led a team of scientists in this mission and eventually found a way to spice the genophage up a little bit and redeploy it on Tuchanka. Despite defending the mission itself as necessary, Mordin always felt a kind of ethical and moral dilemma in his work and struggled for years to accept what he had done. And you follow alongside him in that dilemma throughout Mass Effect 2. You even help Mordin fight off some of his demons by assisting him in a rescue mission of one of his former colleagues that helped to re-engineer the genophage. Anytime you ask Mordin about his work, he vehemently defends the genophage as a necessary evil. He says that yes, while the moral and ethical implications of the work may have been a bit gray, that ultimately the Krogan were poised to wipe out the entire galaxy and something had to be done. There was no reasoning with them. The genophage was, rightfully so, a last resort that was explored after every other option. So let's talk about those implications a little bit now. Mordin insists that the genophage is not a sterility plague. It merely adjusts the Krogan's reproductive rate to a level that will keep their race alive and stable, but also prevent them from overpopulating and eventually dominating the galaxy. The unintended side effect of that is that due to the terror inflicted by the genophage, the Krogan as a whole have devolved to the point of barbarism, the same state the Salarians found them in, just now with big guns and space travel. However, the gray area gets even grayer. Like I said, the Krogan were a relatively primitive species when the Rachni invaded. The Salarians identified the Krogan as a strong, hardy species and chose to uplift them, a term referring to a sudden and violent increase in technology and culture due to an alien race intervening and helping them develop. And the Salarians chose to do this so that they could essentially weaponize the Krogan and sick them on the Rachni. This is why in the ruins of Tuchanka, a good bit of the architecture looks Salarian. So let's take a look at what we have so far. Terrifying evil bugs invade the galaxy. Salarians choose a super primitive race of barbarians that reproduce at an alarming rate due to the god-awful conditions of their planet to give giant guns, armor, explosives, space travel, and cultural infrastructure to. Those very barbarians then summarily end the war and are rewarded with more galactic territory. The barbarians then make use of that territory and begin expanding at, big shock here, an alarming rate. The barbarians then start doing barbarian shit, and the leaders of the galaxy go, oh no, we messed up. In the shadow of yet another galactic war, the Salarians partner with the Turians to unleash the genophage and curb Krogan reproduction, which cripples their entire society, which was essentially built by the Solarians anyway, and now the Krogan are super pissed about the whole ordeal. And more recently, the Krogan have started to overcome the genophage, so the Solarians deploy a team of scientists to figure that out and fix it. It is hard to feel any kind of sympathy whatsoever towards the Solarians here, which is why I think that it is beautiful, incredible storytelling that the developers chose to make the most genophage-conflicted character in the series a Solarian. As you speak with Mordin throughout Mass Effect 2, he does defend the genophage, but there's a few times where he seems, I don't know, less sure of himself. Especially when you challenge him on the ethical side of things. He is clearly conflicted about the whole mess and is using science as a shield for himself. He even openly admits to having a crisis of faith and exploring the religions of multiple races in the galaxy as a direct result of the conflict he felt after completing his work. During his loyalty mission, you track down the previously mentioned colleague of his, Malin, who is overcome with guilt and has taken drastic measures to attempt to undo his work in the genophage project. He's sickened by what he and the other scientists, including Mordin, had done, and has begun some pretty gruesome experimentation on Tuchanka in an attempt to find a way to reverse the genophage. In the finale of that mission, Mordin again takes an incredibly strong stance in the defense of his work and insists that it had to be done. That the Krogan pose too serious a galactic threat at their natural rate of reproduction and aggression, and something had to be done to curb that. Whether you destroy or keep the data, Mordin continues to be conflicted about the whole thing, and eventually those feelings lead to his actions in Mass Effect 3. Mordin eventually continues Malin's work and basically discovers a viable cure option for the genophage. So he begins feeding information to the Urdnot clan leader, which eventually gets back to Shepard. When asking about Mordin's change of heart, he more or less shuts it down and dismisses it as just something that has to be done as you continue to fight for the Krogan in curing the genophage. Mordin is resolute. He is absolutely determined to undo his work and permanently cure the genophage. And in the final moments, the Solarian leader reaches out to Shepard and proposes a deal. The facility that Mordin is planning on administering the cure from has been sabotaged by Solarian forces. The Dalatras wants Shepard to not tell Mordin about the sabotage and allow the Krogan to think that they have been cured. She wants you to lie about this to everyone involved, including Mordin. In return, she promises Solarian aid in the fight against the Reapers. If you allow the cure to be administered, the Solarians will back out and offer zero help to humanity. And thus comes the confrontation at the end of this mission. Mordin was able to identify the sabotage in the facility due to his work in STG and knows exactly how to correct it. You now have a choice. Allow Mordin to fix the sabotage and administer the cure, or commit atrocities in the name of that sweet, sweet achievement. Or so I thought. Then I found out you just have to take the renegade dialogue option and he walks away. So let me break this down as simply as I can. If you take the deal and sabotage the cure, the Krogan think they've been cured, and as such, they commit their forces to helping humanity. The Solarians also offer their forces as the genophage stays in its current state and continues to cull the Krogan. If you do not take the deal and allow Mordin to cure the genophage, the Solarians completely withdraw and do not offer their help, which is a pretty big deal. The Solarian aid accounts for a large number of war asset strength. But again, it doesn't even really matter because curing the genophage and keeping Wrex alive gets you more. So, in order to ensure both races commit the entirety of their forces to help humanity, you have to sabotage the cure and, if you take the wrong dialogue options, personally kill Mordin Solus. I'm not kidding, that moment makes me tear up damn near every time I play it. It's been over 10 years and it still gets me. Everything that led to it, Mordin's entire life, his guilt, his shame, his crisis of faith. Deciding that this entire race of people deserves a chance and committing to fix his mistake. One of the most soul-crushing moments for me is when you're challenging Mordin on his beliefs just prior to killing him, and he turns around and shouts,
I made a mistake!
Not kidding, I got goosebumps as I wrote that into this script. It's so intense and so well done, and it absolutely breaks my heart. Now, let's talk about Wrex. If Wrex is the Urdnot clan leader in question during the events of Mass Effect 3, and you take the deal with the Solarians, he will discover your deception and betrayal and ambush you on the Citadel. This leads to his inevitable death. Whether by your hand or CSEC, he dies. In the most Krogan way imaginable, I might add. Wrex being the Urdnot clan leader is determined by one thing and one thing alone: whether or not he survived the events of Virmire in the first Mass Effect game. So let's talk Virmire. While responding to a distress signal sent out by Solarian STG forces, you discover that Saren, Rogue Spectre and main antagonist of the first game, has been working towards and discovered a cure for the genophage. Wrex, who is anything but a typical Krogan up to that point in the game, is absolutely captivated by that. He insists that due to that alone, the facility that Saren is using has to be preserved, and the cure becomes Wrex's priority over stopping Saren. This naturally causes a bit of discontent amidst the group, and Shepard is tasked with confronting Wrex about the whole thing as he storms off and throws a pretty justifiable tantrum about it. In the confrontation, your choice is A, talk Wrex down from his ledge, convince him that Saren's cure is being used to create a brainwashed army of Krogan that fight for the Reapers, and that these are not true Krogan. As such, this cure is not worthy of being saved. This never quite struck me as a strong argument because, I mean, a cure is a cure, man. But to this, Wrex acquiesces and commits to killing the hell out of Saren and his corrupted Krogan slaves. Or B, you kill him. In cold blood. Just murder him. And after he goes down, put another couple rounds in him just to make sure. And then pretend to be broken up about it when your team comes over to ask what the hell just happened. If you choose to end his life on Virmire, Wrex's brother, Wreav, becomes the Urdnot clan leader in Mass Effect 2. He's not as sharp as Wrex, not as intelligent, not as cunning. He has that same strength of character and obsession with curing his people that Wrex developed, but with far less finesse. As such, if Wreav is clan leader in Mass Effect 3 and you take the deal with the Solarians and lie to the Krogan about curing them, bada bing, bada boom, you have the full support of both the Krogan and Solarians. And Wreav does not figure out that you lied. This decision, along with ensuring both the Quarians and the Geth survive their little entanglement, enabled me to push my war assets over that mark and nab that sweet achievement. The achievement that I could have just gotten by keeping Wrex alive and letting Mordin cure the genophage. The achievement that put more blood on my hands than any other achievement I've ever gotten, including this one. Now, after the absolute ass blaster of an emotional fucking roller coaster that the stories of these two characters just took you on, let's take a look at the trophy that I, at one point before making this video, somehow felt more ashamed of. I banged a squid, dude. I'm not showing capture footage of that moment because I didn't record it the first time, and I'm not putting myself through that ever again. But yeah, banged a mind flare. In retrospect, I am now ashamed of the fact that I somehow felt more conflicted about that one for a brief moment in time. It's like my mind completely blacked out that time that I killed Mordin and Wrex. And the worst, dumbest part about all of this, I didn't have to kill him. I could have just started a Mass Effect 3 save without importing a character. I could have just taken the right dialogue option. I could have just kept Wrex alive and let Mordin do his thing and gotten this stupid goddamn achievement. I don't know how I should feel about myself right now. And this is the end of the video where I normally end on a high note and thank people for watching, but I just feel terrible. Fuck these games. In all seriousness, I truly feel that Mass Effect is the greatest science fiction story ever told. I know that puts it up against some absolute giants, but that is a hill that I am more than willing to die on. I can boil that opinion down to two things: the conflicts and the characters. Conflicts like that of the genophage itself. A scientifically engineered genetic mutation that almost sterilizes an entire race of beings. The ethical and moral implications behind that are staggering, and the writers have, again, done a phenomenal job of crafting a conflict with two distinct sides that have positives and negatives on both. Good and evil abounds in every faction of this universe, and no one is 100% right or wrong. On that note, in keeping with the spirit of the last video 10 Points of Slashing uploaded, I will say this. I do have a very strong opinion on the genophage, and it's definitely not the Paragon one. And it is characters, like the ones I talked about in this video, that set Mass Effect apart for me. Incredibly complex, emotional, and compelling characters that legitimately make you feel something for this completely fictional space alien that has never nor will ever exist. And you know that after you put the controller down or close the program on your computer, but up to that point you have been so deeply immersed in the world that you legitimately feel sorrow and empathy for these people. That is, until you have to get back to reality. And that's ultimately what this channel is about, staying the hell away from reality. Thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart for watching this video and sharing in my passion for these stupid goddamn video games. Let me know in the comments if you had a similar experience, or just give me the old F in the chat to pay respects to Mordin Wrex. On that note, if you are interested in chatting or joining the community, 10 Points of Slashing does have a Discord server. The link to join is in our bio on the channel page, so feel free to come talk RPGs or just video games in general. Thank you again so much. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya.